Hey guys, it's Fudizi here with another game review. This time, I'm going to be going over the extremely hyped and well-deserved Elden Ring. I know it's May and the game came out in February, but I just really couldn't resist making this review. I battled back and forth between whether it was worth giving my 2 cents on and just decided that this game is way too good to not have a review out on my channel. For anyone who's seen my last videos, 2022 has just been great so far. We've had a ton of new releases to catch up on, but there's one game that just conquered the sales charts, social media feeds, and just everyone's TikTok, Instagram. You probably know by now that Elden Ring is definitely worth the hype and should be a game to buy on your list. Me being a longtime Souls player, I wanted to give my feedback on what worked and what didn't work in the game. This way, anyone who's concerned about the game can get a good understanding of how it works and whether they should give it a shot, especially for new players. I'll start out with what I understood of the story. This game is just a traditional Souls-like game where a story is not really presented to you at all. You'll need to find clues in items, dialogue, and the world to really see kind of what happens. Most players are going to play this and think, everything's trying to kill me, but I need to just kill it first. And if that's what you get from the game, it's still a really good game. To kind of give a brief overview, it takes place somewhere called the Lands Between, where these different gods rule over these different regions. These gods can't get along, of course, and have wars that lead to a shattering of the Elden Ring. The ring is what blesses the land with immortality. Your goal is to replace the broken Elden Ring, or actually not replace but repair the broken Elden Ring, and restore peace to the land. There are 6 so far discovered endings to the game, keyword discovered because more are still possibly hiding that no one's found, but each kinda has different outcomes based on who you help during the game.
Rise now, ye tarnished, ye dead who yet live. The call of long-lost grace speaks to us all. Horalu, chieftain of the Badlands, the ever-brilliant Gold Mask. Fear, the deathbed companion.
What I liked about the story was that it was a lot more cinematic than previous titles. The issue I have with the way that these stories are told is that it's not really accessible to most people. Sure, when you figure out things it's amazing, but with how popular the game is getting and is, people definitely probably just YouTube a story explanation and just moved on with their lives. I feel like the game here could be so much better if the story wasn't told in riddles. I know Souls purists are going to hate this, but I really believe that it'll only make the game better. The main story took me about 80 hours to complete, and that's with just a ton of side bosses that I killed. I tried to do as many things that I could, but I know I missed a lot of things. To this day, I still stumble upon a video showing a weapon or cave that I completely missed, and for me that's the best part about the game. Just so much discovering, so many new items, so many enemies and caves. Despite the story being really hard to understand, the gameplay is what makes these kinds of games good. I'll go out and say that the best part of Elden Ring is just how different your experience feels in comparison to other people. From Software, the developers are just masters of level design, and bringing that to an open world was just an insane task. It was either going to really work or just fail. Every space in Elden Ring feels meaningful. Every balcony, every door, every cave has something to offer. There's always an item, a unique enemy that can drop an item, a random boss, or even a puzzle that goes into a side mission. When you play this game, you'll just start OCDing over the map and making sure you've explored every inch before moving on. And still sometimes you'll come back and find something you completely missed. The map is ridiculously huge, expanding into different biomes, above you, below ground. The game constantly does things that blow you away. Every time you think you've seen it all, something new happens. If you've played Breath of the Wild, that sense of exploration is just taken and multiplied by 100. It's seriously so good and just so rewarding. I haven't played a game in years that has absorbed me the way this title did. I'll go with graphics up next, and with the style of the game, it definitely didn't disappoint. You're not getting an extremely realistic game. I mean, there's magic, giant turtles, skeletons, and dragons, but the level of detail in the world and enemies is just mind-blowing. Some enemies look creepy as hell, and others, like bosses, are just terrifying, making you wonder how you can even fight them as soon as you see the cutscene. My favorite part of the game was the effects. Fighting a dragon, watching it blow fire, throwing a lightning bolt, seeing sparks crackle on the enemy. The effects in the game are just so damn good, and actually it was the reason I went into a faith build, because I wanted to use those fancy, nice incantations. I played the game on an Xbox Series X, and didn't run into any crazy performance issues. You know, there was a bit of pop-in at times, but it wasn't unplayable. I did run the game on performance mode because I really wanted to keep frame rate prioritized, and I only noticed a couple slowdowns. My main concern here isn't the performance of the game, but really the camera, which is something that I'll just talk about here in the future. I did know that when the game first came out, there was really bad performance issues. I think From Software sent out an update that messed things up, but you know, if you're watching this video now, rest assured most of that's been fixed. Gameplay is really where the game takes everything it's doing well and just puts a bow on it. Seriously, the gameplay is so much fun when you get it down. Most people are going to be intimidated by this type of game, and I totally understand that. I mean, I personally returned Bloodborne after getting frustrated with it years ago, only to beat it again, you know, after 5 or 6 years. But I understand that once you learn how to get through these missions, the game is just seriously so rewarding, guys. Similar to other Souls games, if Souls games aren't your thing, seriously, I would say give this one a shot. It's really not as hard. It might start off intimidating, but there's just so many different factors to it that make it easier. So you get a character builder, you get to create any build you like, so don't feel locked in. You do get an option to respec later in the game and switch up your builds. Each build can play completely different, making it possible to create your own and complete the game. You can go full strength and swing the biggest swords, wear the heaviest armor. You can stay at range with an archer, cause a ton of bleed effects with katanas, use poison, use magic, or just channel the power of the gods with these awesome incantations and throw lightning and fire at enemies. I personally went with a faith hybrid build. I want to be able to fight at range, but I love swinging a big ass sword, so that's what I did. I even beat the game without having to respec into a different build, which I've seen some people with certain bosses completely switch up their build to a bleed build, which is, I guess, overpowered, you know, just to be able to handle some bosses. The best part about the gameplay is that the open world takes the game to the next level when it comes to difficulty level. Like I said earlier, if you're even just a little worried about difficulty, the best part here is you can level up somewhere, come right back. There's no traditional story loop, there's not a mission you need to get through to get to the end game. It's not like the other Souls games where you're trapped and you honestly just have to get good. You could just get OP. You're immediately going to find an area that's too difficult for you and get slaughtered as soon as you open the game up. The point of the game, though, is to teach you that you need to explore, you need to level up, you need to come back ready to kick ass. There is that typical Souls-like gameplay of learning when to strike. You're gonna have to learn how to roll out of the way, but the game's open world makes it so much more accessible. I personally love learning a new boss, getting killed for about 2 hours, only to figure out how to beat them and just barely take damage. That feeling you get just feels like hitting a new bench press max or climbing a mountain. It's just like this euphoria that goes over your head. The craziest thing is that sometimes you'll call it a night, you'll go to bed, and you'll beat the boss on the next day, first try. My favorite part about Elden Ring was that its gameplay is just unique and addicting. Like I said, I spent 80 hours with it. I didn't touch another game, not once. And the worst part about it is that I really wanted to crush a New Game Plus and see what I miss. But, you know, I'm in the middle of reviewing Tiny Tina now, and I've got some other games, but definitely during the winter I'm going to come back to this one. Sound and voice acting are just top notch for this type of game as well. Every character is voiced, some being a lot more memorable than others. The enemies sound terrifying as they look. Something that people rarely point out is just how good the music is in the game. The music that they play makes you feel like you're doing something epic, making every boss fight feel more intense as you try to dodge crazy attacks that they send. The only bad thing about the music is that each cave has that weird creepy song, and it's nothing I can't overlook in the grand scope though of the game. I've been raving about the game so far, which is a really good thing, just trust me, I love this game, but I do need to cover what I didn't like about the game. Don't get me wrong, again, I loved every frustrating second I had with the title. I can't wait to play it again, but I just need to be objective here and point out what can get better in the game. For me, the largest issue, by far, is the camera. On top of having enemies that can murder you with a hit or two, Elden Ring has a huge camera issue when it comes to just the large bosses. It makes those large bosses not hard to kill, but just more hard to fight due to the way they're designed. Every time I saw a huge boss, I knew I'd be fighting the boss and the camera. The camera will get you killed so many times because it'll just not work when you lock on. You won't be able to see what the hell's going on because your screen is covered by the giant leg of the boss, or just the body of the enemy. I feel like something needs to change there with the lock-on system, just to help you keep track of how a larger boss works, because the way it's currently set up, half the time you're not going to see what you're fighting when you get up close. Another issue I had was just a little more towards the end of the game. I don't want to spoil anything when it comes to boss battles, but I do want to point out that some battles are honestly just bullshit. I hate to say it because I know a lot of Souls purists are going to blow up in the comments, but there are some battles where you'll need a specific character or a shield to block certain moves that if the boss pulls off, can just murder you no matter what. It feels cheap, and to go through an entire game dodging and learning a whole different playstyle only to fight a boss that's impossible to dodge, it's just crazy to me. It just feels like poor level or poor boss design. Like I said, I hate that I'm bringing this up because, you know, maybe I just suck and maybe there is a way to dodge, but from what I saw online, there's a certain boss in this game that's completely impossible to dodge, and you just need to get lucky and not have her destroy you like that. Again, I hate that I'm bringing it up. I need to be objective though, and after playing all of the Souls games, this one just didn't sit right with me. It felt like an unfair direction was taken with it rather than skill. It is more of like an optional boss, but again, I'm not sure there what kind of their line of thinking was. But I did beat that boss without having to respec in any way. Just kind of had to get lucky. As for things I missed, there's a co-op system that's a hassle to access in 2022. You have to use a finger or password to get a friend to join. There's a few limitations with that open world, but again, I didn't use it. I really wanted to beat the game alone and experience every bit of difficulty. I discovered a ton of armor and weapons to use. I know I missed some during my playthrough. Each weapon has this really cool Ash of War that gives you an animation that does damage at the cost of some FP. The game even has Ashes of War that you can unlock and give to your basic weapons, which helps you build a playstyle that works for you. When it comes to equipment, there's just so much utility with magic, incantations, defense, and even roll speed. There's summons that you can activate that help during bosses, bringing in a companion that helps you take them out, as well as some spectral summons where you summon a pack of wolves or jellyfish to help you out. In my opinion, everything the game gives you is fair game. Do what you want, play the game the way you want to. I used everything I could to beat it, and I wouldn't change a thing. So to conclude here, my Elden Ring video can really be 30 minutes or long if I wanted to go into everything in the game, but I wanted to talk about what's important. I didn't want to spoil anything for you guys because I really think this is a good experience to hop into. You've probably seen the hype, you've seen the amazing scores, and there's just no surprise here that the game is just a 10 out of 10 for me. Seriously. I can't remember the last time I had this much fun exploring in a game. The gameplay for me just seriously made me obsessed, including just constant progression, how big the open world is, and how much discovery was waiting for me. I just have to give it that legendary 10 out of 10 rating. I can't talk about the game without smiling because even after all the bullshit camera deaths, every triumph I had against every enemy felt earned. I was given an open field to explore, and the beauty of the game comes from just that sense of discovery you get. The world's not cluttered, empty, or repetitive. It's got so many secrets, enemies waiting to just capitalize on a mistake and kill you, and just so much discovery and items. Exploring and just finding a cave, which leads to some awesome new weapon, a frustrating boss, even just resting at a site of grace and just getting invaded by a NPC during night, or even opening a chest and being taken somewhere with psycho shrimps that can one-shot you. There's all these crazy reasons as to why the game is just so good it keeps you on your toes. You're never bored, you never feel stuck, There's always something new to find. And while getting to a new area just means, am I supposed to cross this lake, or am I about to get hit by a dragon? Which usually, surprise, there's a dragon. If you're considering getting the game, do yourself a favor and purchase it. Like I said, if you stick with it, it can be one of the most rewarding titles you've ever played. Anyone who's worried about difficulty should be assured that it's really not the most difficult Souls game, and the open world level up options make it to where the game is just so much easier. It's still a challenge, don't get me wrong, but if you find yourself getting slaughtered early, it just means you need to level up and come back. The game is possibly the best I've played in the last 10 years, and I seriously can't wait to get into a new game plus and just go with a whole new build. If you liked the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. We're doing our best to crank these out, and with the crazy amount of video game releases this early in 2022, it's been just a little hard to keep up, but I'm doing our best. See you guys in our next review video. Bye.